Nothing is permanent in life. So there will be ups and downs in life. We all get our share of weal and woe in life. These changing circumstances make one an updated version of oneself. He becomes experienced, knowledgeable, sensible person. If there is either ups or downs, life will be dull. There'll be no enjoyment in life. A person will be neither succeed nor failed. He just follows the same monotonous routine of his life. These are parts of our life. These are the reasons behind what we are today. So don't afraid about anything, just keep moving forward and enjoy each and every moment of life. Amori was a little boy full of curiosity for the world. Despite being born into a family of limited resources, in which he had to start working almost as soon as he learned to walk, he always found a way to play and have fun. And this caused him problems with his parents and older siblings, who by dint of suffering had hardened his heart to the charm of little things. His parents had fled from a land made inhospitable by violence when their first child had just been born. They went from having a stable place to live and a decent income to survive on, to having nothing but part of themselves and their labor power. They had worked in everything. They were always going from there to there in search of new opportunities. They had become nomads moving according to the weather and the needs. It was in this environment that their second son was born, and knowing that it would be impossible for them to survive. If they brought more lives into the world, they decided to keep only the two of them and not have any more children. Thus, they continued their nomadic life until finally, with a bit of luck, the father managed to get a stable job that allowed them to settle in a fixed place, the joy of being able to be under a roof. Again, for an indefinite period of time was enormous, and their children finally knew what it was like to have their own space. Although small and humble, the house offered them a home-like atmosphere that they had not had for a long time. It was then that the mother became pregnant again. They had tried their best to take care of themselves, but their resources did not allow it. They could not access more reliable methods, and so she became depressed, feeling like the world was falling apart, and constantly imagining herself thinking about her family going hungry and not being able to feed her children. Her husband tried his best to get the ideas out of their heads, but to no avail. Finally, however, the child was born, and they named him Amori, but his mother was never the same. Although the arrival of the child had not been as dramatic financially, as she thought there was nothing that could bring her back to her senses, and she saw her own life as a misfortune. It was when she began to reach her worst point, she began to notice that the child was cheerful, and that he always had a smile on his face, and she became furious with him. Amori years later understood that his mother did not love him, but he did love her, and from a very young age, he promised himself that he would be rich and that his parents and siblings would live happily and peacefully for the rest of their lives. When the boy was 3 years old, he began to work as his brothers. The main work they did was to travel long distances, guided by donkeys. The area in which they lived had enormous access difficulties, and the donkeys were the only ones capable of carrying food and tools to many of the houses. Amori, being so small, demonstrated a great sense of location and an uncanny ability to make the donkey understand exactly what he wanted it to do. This combination soon made the boy well known and appreciated by the inhabitants, who began to give small tips to the little boy every time he arrived with his load, because he also brightened their days when they did tricks on the donkey, and it seemed that the donkey understood the boy. He had found a way to play and have fun while he worked, and so he was able to contribute more to his home than his siblings, and even his mother, who by dint of sadness worked little and badly, but she did not appreciate it. Their father, for his part, did his best, so that his children would not grow up deprived of the family education, for having to work all day. It was difficult to guide them about what was right and what was wrong, and about life itself. However, they had been fortunate enough to beget very knowledgeable children with a great capacity for self-education, so they never suffered headaches because of them until something happened that nobody expected. Amori had gone out to work, as he did every day, but that night he did not return. Those who were waiting for their loads that day found them abandoned on the side of the road. They thought that perhaps something bad had happened to him, but soon, according to versions of people who had seen him alone with the donkey, the boy was alone. Amori had decided to leave home. It was then that his mother missed him more than the child himself because of the income he brought her. The father was very worried about Amori and his siblings, who saw him as a strange child for always being so cheerful, even when the work was inclement, were astonished that he was leaving, but at the same time, they found it normal considering that he was so incomprehensible to them. Amori was gone, but what they did not know was that he had promised himself that one day he would return, and that day would come when he had become rich, although he still did not know how he was going to achieve such a purpose. Being a boy of barely 6 years old, and having a donkey as his only possession, but he set out on the road, and as he went along, he performed acrobatics on the donkey, standing on his head, jumping very high, and falling down in a sitting position. He would stand on it, while keeping his balance on one foot. In addition, many other things that was his way of staying cheerful in the midst of difficulties. But he still didn't know that acrobatics was what he really loved to do. However, someone else realized before everyone else that this child was a prodigy. Along the way, he aroused the curiosity of many people, including a man who immediately offered him a job in a circus. Amori, surprised, accepted. He did not know that the man was not the owner of just any circus, being one of the most famous in the country that had already made numerous international tours. Amori was soon a sensation. The donkey, of course, was with him, and the boy was dazzled by the crowd of people who applauded him every day, and every time he performed an acrobatic stunt on the donkey. For, until that moment, no one was aware of what he did. In fact, very few could do it, because it was not only a very great acrobatic ability, but also a capacity of understanding with that donkey, that was soon discovered to be, in fact, a gift he had with all animals. They responded to his orders as if he were speaking to them in their own language, and in every circus act, he performed with his donkey, with horses, or even with an elephant. It seemed that they were lifelong friends, and that they understood each other perfectly. The boy caused a furor in the city they visited, and when only 2 years had passed since he had been there, he had already saved an amount of money that he and even his parents could hardly dream of. Then he decided it was time to return home. And since in the course of those 2 years he had not left the circus, his boss gave him a 2-week vacation. And Amori returned to his parents. When he returned, it seemed to him that nothing had changed. His house was the same, but nothing else was his brother's, a little more robust. His father with some gray hair, and his mother was in bed, for she had not left the house since. Amori had left knowing this made a strong impression on the heart of the little boy, who wanted to talk to her before anyone else. He told her everything he had done in those 2 years, and told her that from now, they would no longer be in need. The next day he bought a house for his family in a good area, and gave all the remaining money to his parents, who organized a variety store in the garage of their home, which was soon successful, because there was nothing like it around. The neighbors were grateful that they did not have to travel long distances to get many of the things they needed. His siblings were then able to continue with their studies, and after 2 weeks, when Amori had to go back to work, everyone thanked the boy for having improved their lives, and in an impulse that no one expected. His mother cried. She cried a lot, and asked him to forgive her for wishing he had not been born, and for not having been the mother for him that he really needed. But above all that, he deserved. But Amori, always cheerful, and with such a pure heart, told her that he would not have wanted any other mother but her. She was his mother after all, and for him, it was a blessing to have her, and that his family was the most important thing to him, and for them he would work every day of his life. Sometimes what we consider a burden ends up becoming a true blessing, so that you can actually enjoy your life. Consider your life to be a smooth road without any traffic, so you are going on full throttle. You are enjoying your life. You are enjoying the speed. After some time, you will not enjoy this as much as you were enjoying in the beginning. You will not be as excited as you were before. Eventually, you will not be enjoying this smooth road. In fact, you will be bored of it. Now, if you have some speed breakers, some traffic in your path, you will be excited when you find a smooth road, when you get the opportunity to go with full throttle. Basically, happiness and sadness are complementary to each other. You will not truly enjoy your happy moments if you have not faced some sad moments. You will not enjoy your success as much if you have not faced any failures. You won't enjoy your weekends if you don't have busy weekdays. Therefore, life has, and it need to have, some ups and downs so that we can enjoy its smooth part. We learn in the downtime, and we respect in the uptime because we understand the significance of loss. If you like this story, don't forget to leave a like to let us know, and let us know in the comments section what you thought of Amori. His beautiful heart, share his story with your friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.